Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the newest instalment of the My Football Writer podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening to us on Spotify. I am Freddie Humphrey Wakefield. There's just three of us this week. There's no Will Grant. He's too busy serving people on a till in Wroxham. I've got Henry Miller and Jack Wright with me for this week, and what a week it was. But before we dive into the footballing reasons why it was so good, why was your week so good outside of it? Or maybe did you not have a good week? Let the people all know about what's been going on with the pair of you.
Well, for me, the week started in the worst possible fashion. So I had a bit of a shaving mishap. I just wanted to tidy it up. And with Christmas round the corner, I wanted to save a bit of money and do my beard myself and then just go to the barber's for a haircut. That didn't work. And yeah, I butchered my beard. So all of it had to come off. What you're seeing now is 8 days of progress, which I don't think looks too bad at the minute. So yeah, my beard's slowly getting there. What else have I done? I've done more presenting on Future Radio, which Jack really enjoyed, bless him.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, the
Cheers
wreath making was very insightful.
Exactly. It's what it's all about at this time of the year, especially. So, yeah. And yeah, obviously, with how Norwich are playing, couldn't be better at the minute.
Yeah, no. I mean, I agree. My week was pretty mundane, apart from my trip to Carrow Road, which, for anyone who, again, has forgotten that I don't live in Norfolk anymore. I live in sunny, glistening Southend. So actually going to Carrow Road was fantastic. Met up with Will. He does exist. He doesn't hate me in real life, which is fantastic. But I picked a very good game. That was probably the highlight of my week. But maybe we should talk about that game in more detail. Of course.
Yeah, no, maybe we should, and hopefully we can get through it without Jack's Wi-Fi cutting off, so his point midway through just ends up not going into absolute oblivion and he get lost in translation. But no, it was rather good. I mean, I wasn't able to tune in to either game as usual, but we scored 10 goals in 2 games. Yes, we also conceded 3, but who cares? We scored 10. It's unheard of. Well, maybe not unheard of. We're the top scorers in the division now, which is fantastic. No, and Jack was there to witness it. Henry was putting in the work behind the scenes at the forum. Where was I? I was somewhere in Sussex doing some other stuff. No, I wasn't tuning in with Norwich. But no, 2 wins on the bounce, 10 goals in 2 matches. Yes, they were both at home, so Norwich's home form is still very good, and maybe the away form needs to be worked on just a little bit. But that injury crisis is easy and it's lovely. And there's only really one big name missing in Josh Sargent. But who needs Josh Sargent? We got Ante Crnac, and he's scoring goals. Now, anyone who's watched this channel for a prolonged period of time knows my thoughts on Mr. Crnac. I didn't really like him. I didn't think he was all that good. I didn't think the money we spent on him was justified. I've now eaten a massive portion of humble pie because he's actually turned out to be quite all right. He scored 3 goals in 2 games. And as Henry, as you said to me just before we started, if only someone on here just said to stick with him and maybe he'd turn out a little bit all right.
Yeah, wonder who that could have been. But no, I was so pleased for Crnac. Similar to Jack, I actually got to go to Carrow Road this week as well, which was great. But I was at that 6-2 6-1 game, against Plymouth, and yeah, so pleased for Crnac when he finally put the icing on the cherry on the cake to well, not wrap up 3 points for us. It was wrapped up long before he scored, but yeah, to just seal the victory for us. It was an amazing day, and yeah, so pleased for him, and so pleased that he kicked on and really was the star of the show against Luton as well.
Yeah, I hope my Wi-Fi isn't frosty, but it probably is. Who knows? Some might say that the Croatian Crnac has split opinion. Do you get it? Because there's yeah, I've been working on that one. Yeah, pretty much everything that we said in the previous podcast was that Norwich City are not very prolific. They don't score from pieces. Crnac is a waste of money. And then in 1 week, it's completely changed. The vibe shift from coming out of a 2-2 draw against West Brom was kind of indifferent. It was 1 point. It was stopping a losing run. And it kind of just felt like light from just continuous pain. But now the vibe has completely shifted. I'm frosting now, aren't I? Anyway, the vibe has completely shifted. It's now gone to how far are the playoffs? Everyone is fantastic. Everyone is undroppable. We are sensational, and we are back in the space of a week.
No, it's a funny old game, football. Very, very funny old game. We already sort of touched on the Luton match there, where Norwich came out of a bit of a sticky second half, but they got 2 late goals and they got themselves all 3 points. Emiliano Marcondes, who is another player who's really sort of come into fruition over the last few weeks. He's also on this channel had some criticism, and he's ended up being all right. And it makes you wonder how on earth a player of his quality wasn't signed rather before he came to Norwich. Of course, he opened up on the scrimmage a few weeks ago when he was there about how he had personal issues which hindered his eagerness to find a club, but he found one in Norwich, and he had a manager who he knew beforehand, and my word, that has been a fantastic signing so far for Norwich. It has been truly amazing. Borja Sainz scored again. But you see, that's just common these days. He's the best player in this league. I won't hear any other player's name chucked around. I don't want to hear Josh Maja. I don't want to hear Emmanuel Latte-Lath. I don't want to hear Colton Morris. I don't want to hear Elijah Adebayo. I want to hear one man's name, begins with B, ends in Borja, and it makes me feel very nice things in life. Am I completely losing the plot and not knowing what I'm saying? Yes, it's been a long day. It's been a very long Tuesday night. But anyway, from the Luton game, we go to the tonking of Wayne Rooney's Plymouth Argyle. We made Wayne Rooney's Plymouth Argyle look like Brian Gunn's Norwich City. We absolutely destroyed them. We put 6 past them. Crnac's got in on the action. Borja Sainz got another hat-trick. Henry, you were there. Talk me through it, please. I want to relive every living and beautiful moment of that 6-1 pummeling of Plymouth.
Well, what I will say, I just feel sorry for anyone who got there even a tad bit late, because by the time I got to my seat, we'd basically strung 2 passes together and then had the ball in the back of the net through Borja Sainz. So he started as he meant to go on and put us 2 up, and then we kept on having chances and knocking on the door, but we did let Plymouth back into the game, and half-time went in 2-1. But realistically, it should have been about 7 or 8-1 at half-time. Plymouth got quite a fortunate goal, I'd say. It was a really good hit, but quite fortunate because we battered them, and we knew that. And then just tore them apart, didn't we? In the second half, with goals from Duffy, Sainz, and Crnac completing. Borja Sainz completing his hat-trick, another hat-trick for Sainz. And Freddie, you're spot on. Like, no one even comes close to him, do they, in the league this season? And what I worry about, normally when we get to this stage of the season and we have players performing well, okay, well, they're safe in terms of staying at the club until the summer. That they'll probably kick on and then leave the club in the summer, but repay the faith that the club has given them and stay after the January transfer window. With Borja Sainz, he's that good. I sort of worry an astronomical fee will come in for him and we won't know what to do because at the minute he is playing out of his skin. You know, it's like Jonathan Rowe last season. If he wasn't injured, would he have stayed past January? Who knows? And Borja Sainz is not only playing like how Rowe did last season on his run of consecutive matches scoring, but he's playing even better. People say that he needs to add assists to his game to truly be considered amongst the best and sort of in the same caliber as Emi Buendia. But when you're in this team and on that sort of scoring form, it doesn't really matter because you know that other players are going to create those chances. And you know that you're always going to have chances and be putting chances in the back of the net. So really delighted for him. And as you said, an absolute pummeling for Wayne Rooney and for Plymouth Argyle. And it's my 10th year now watching Norwich City on a regular basis. And Plymouth have to be by far one of the worst teams I've seen at Carrow Road in that point. They offered absolutely nothing. And I'll be very shocked if they can avoid relegation again this season.
No.
You stole my thunder there, Henry. I was going to literally ask, has there been a worse team at Carrow Road? I mean, obviously, you go back to Huddersfield, where we thrashed them 7, but that was just a Pookie, Buendia, Cantwell at their finest, ripping up the league. Obviously, the Reading one, 7-1. But yeah, I watched that game and I thought there was just so much space, so many chances created. Henry, like you said, Borja Sainz could have had 5 or 6 goals quite easily. Championship strikers, you should all hang your head in shame that you are behind in the goal alley to a literal winger. He's not a striker, he is a winger. Like that is come on guys, like that's shameful. But just sort of piggybacking on your point, obviously the Buendia comparisons, they're going to flood in. I think what Emi had in his locker in 2021 was consistency throughout a number of matches. I mean, even in sort of the poor results, he would still be the one creating chances, generally close to being the man of the match. I seem to remember when we lost to Luton away, and yeah, he was the penalty scorer and he was outstanding that night in spite of a loss. But with Borja, in the kind of bad spell that we've had, I don't know if it's teams tactically trying to shove him out of the way, or if it's just general kind of mood, just general kind of temperament, that his standards have dropped when our standards have dropped. Basically, what I'm saying is, Borja, be good every game, which is a ridiculous thing for me to say, but it's consistent. And I do agree, adding assists to his many portfolios of wonderful things that he does will be helpful. Obviously, if he all of a sudden learns how to actually take like free kicks and stuff, that then adds probably another 5 or 10 mil to his value. I think he's got to be careful not to be too one-dimensional. What we sort of found against Plymouth was that obviously a lot of his tactic was waiting for someone like Kenny or Marcondes to spray the ball, let him run, let him cut inside, let him shoot. If that winger that cuts inside, defenders will train to mark him out of matches. Like he will be, out thought very quickly. So again, just be better, Borja. Even though you're fantastic and everyone loves you, just be that little bit better.
It's a big ask for the top scorer of the division to be better. No, that's a huge ask, but who knows? Maybe he could be better. Maybe he will add consistency and assists and other elements to his game. There's been a few reports over the last few days that he's already agreed to join Galatasaray before anything else and any other terms. That's an interesting one, which I think Paddy Davitt of the Pinken has sort of shut down a bit more since it was revealed. But that would be something if he's already decided. Yeah, see you all later before anything else is agreed. Yeah, see, bye. I decide this now. I'll see you all soon enough. But no, we'll see with that one. If it was Galatasaray as well with Sarah already there, and I saw a Galatasaray fan that wants Cordoba, can they just leave us alone, please? Can you just not? Can you not take every good player that we have and take them to Turkey and promise them some nice teeth and a new hairline? Can we just keep them in?
What I will say, imagine in 3 years' time, Kellen Fisher at Galatasaray. Imagine his hair, right? We've criticised him for a beard or a lack of a beard. It will be down to there if he plays for Galatasaray. So for the sake of seeing that, I wouldn't be opposed to us selling Kellen Fisher there.
Yeah, well, maybe. Well, just looking around us, of course, for people on Spotify who can't see it, Henry's not got much of a beard, as he already alluded to. Jack hasn't got one, and I've got rid of all my facial hair, so I'm embracing my my Kellen Fisher after he was sort of reshuffled due to another player in very good form alongside Sainz and Marcondes in Mr. Jack Stacey has come back into the team and has been phenomenal. He looks like the Jack Stacey of last season at the start, who was just so dynamic on the right side and providing a lot of attacking outlet and just being almost relentless at right back, just bombing up and down the pitch. And Johannes Ovtorop did say in a post-match press conference, believe it was against Plymouth, where he spoke about he didn't really use him in the first few weeks of the season, and Fisher was keeping Stacey out of the team, but he's brought him back in and he couldn't be more impressed, and he realised just how good Stacey is. And in pre-season, I remember one of the very first things that was said from the Northampton game from a Pinken live blog was that Jack Stacey was going to have a lot of fun in a Johannes Ovtorop team due to how much the right back attacks and can be a big outlet. And that's what Jack Stacey is brilliant at. So as much as Crnac and Sainz are getting the praise a lot at the minute, you could argue that case for a lot of them. And Stacey, it's very hard to argue, doesn't deserve a bit more praise because he's really come into fruition the last 2 matches.
Yeah, definitely. You're spot on. What I found it interesting is you alluded to there, Freddie, about Johannes Ovtorop's basically admittal that he got it wrong with Stacey, and that maybe he shouldn't have dropped him because he didn't necessarily see the value that he brings to the team. I've said before in this podcast with Stacey, his worst is a 7 out of 10. It's sort of similar to Kenny McLean in that sense, that you know that you're always going to get a solid performance from him. What is interesting is I think Kellen Fisher has now made himself undroppable. So I think going forward, although you're looking at Fisher as more of a traditional right back, I think going forward, he's going to have to slot in at left back because Stacey has just been really good at right back. So Stacey needs to play for me, but I would have Kellen Fisher on the other flank. I think both of them have staked their case to be in this team really well. And I think both of them have almost made themselves undroppable. But what I will say for poor Ben Cresceni, who seems to have dropped out again, is that I think he's been a little bit unlucky. And if they ever did want to do the Kellen Fisher in midfield experiment, which I wouldn't be against. I think when I saw him play there against Northampton, albeit it was Northampton, but he looked really convincing there and really solid, then that will probably be Krisenny's best opportunity to get back into this Norwich team. But no, in terms of fullbacks, I couldn't be more impressed, especially as we all thought Callum Doyle would play at left back. And we're looking at that situation thinking, you know, it's such a bittersweet position because he's someone else's player. Whereas now, knowing that going forward, we've got two fullbacks who, albeit Jack Stacey is getting on a bit in football terms, but we've got someone here in Kellen Fisher who's really young and his potential is through the roof, and Jack Stacey, a solid option who is our player. You know, we are secure in those positions, and yeah, it couldn't be better for the Norwich City fullbacks.
Yeah, how good was Krisenny against Plymouth? He was exceptional, and his link was fantastic. Obviously, going into the Luton match, Fisher coming back from suspension, it was always the question mark of, well, exactly like you said, Henry, you've got to play Fisher, you've got to play him somewhere. So it was very harsh on Krisenny to be dropped. Completely agree with Callum Doyle not going back to left back. I've said it before. I just don't think he's suited for it. I just don't think he's got the attributes that someone or a Krisenny has. I think he does really sort of work alongside really well with Duffy. It then ultimately adds mark of, well, where does Cordoba fit in this? He's going to have to really work really hard to get back into this team. I really hate to say it, but Duffy is probably undroppable at the moment. I mean, his run that set up the third goal against Luton, that was just, you know, complete, just out of nowhere, when we were really struggling to get through their midfield and through their defence. He just thought, right, I'm just going to run. I'm just going to do a Forrest Gump. I'm just going to go. And yeah, so he can't be dropped. Doyle can't be dropped. Stacey, obviously, like you said, fantastic. So I was right in the Wentham corner, right in front of where he got the cross in. I have to say, Tahith Chong didn't really inspire me with the way that he was tracking, but he should have just lumped it. He should have just cleared it into the river end, and it's no surprise that he got hooked at half time because Rob Edwards was probably fuming with him. But yeah, again, Stacey undroppable, Duffy undroppable, Doyle undroppable, Fisher undroppable. Maybe we just play 5 or 6 at the back. I don't know. Up to you, Johannes.
No, I don't think I'd bother doing that. Or maybe we need to. Norwich actually do have the 8th worst defence in the league. They are very much, to go back to sort of a 90s phrase, they're very much the great entertainers of the Championship. They're the top scorers and they've got a bit of a leaky defence. But it's all well and good. Is that down to the way in which they want to play and they want to be an attacking team who simply their whole philosophy is a bit Vindaloo, we'll score one more than you? Or do they actually need to just have a few more defensive coaching sessions and just go, okay, lads, let's work on this a bit. Let's become harder to break down defensively and ultimately make us a better team. We know how good we are going forward, but let's just be careful and be a bit more defensive. But with the modern day and age of football and how Norwich, when in possession, only pretty much play with 3 at the back and the right back might as well be a right winger, is it really sort of, is that testament really to the way Norwich play because of how attacking they are, that defence is a little bit of a, not maybe from an internal standpoint, that it's not too much of an issue because this team will simply just continue to score goals?
Yeah, I think what you're saying there, Freddie, it's sort of a bit of both. I know it's an old cliche, but the best form of defence for this Norwich side is attack, and that's exactly what they're doing, and they're proving that on the pitch at the minute. But I think maybe we could do with being a bit tighter defensively, but also we're in a position where we've got the best player in the league. So if we are sort of in the doldrums, so to speak, just give it to Borja Sainz and he'll work his magic. And that's all we really need to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it in my piece for my football writer. It's on the website if you want to go and read it from after the Luton game. I don't just spew nonsense on the podcast. I do actually know how to read and how to write. I know it's sensational. But I said basically playing out from the back is the most divisive tactic in all of football, because when it works well, it's Barcelona-esque and you're the best team in the world and you're free-flowing, magical, wonderful, and it's glorious, sexy football. If you even do one tiny mistake, you are a moron that deserves to have your head cut off, which is pretty much like the logic with Slimani against Luton. One really silly pass into kind of no one, and it got cut out by Adebayo for a very, very easy goal. In terms of defending, scoring from a set piece, but still from corners. Oh, am I frosty?
No, you're back now. You're all right.
Am I good?
Yes.
Hello. I was saying about defending from corners. Whilst we scored from one, Shane Duffy with a I finally got my head on. Yeah, I know. I'm happy too. Yeah, conceding stupid goals from corners and being really silly from set pieces. So Nick Stanley needs to. Well, still frosty.
No, I just can't get over your visual description of Dart. You were like a pigeon, just full of.
Yeah. Shane Duffy from Derry. What? I forgot my train of thought. Defending set pieces, yes. Nick Stanley, if you started work on Monday, well done. I hope your office is nice and clean. Glad that you managed to tell them how to score from a corner. But if you can do like the opposite and tell them how to just like head it away the other way. Luton corner goal, the second one for them, was one of the most silly, chaotic goals you've ever seen. Just lump it, just clear it, just stop fluffing around with it. Yeah, I think that's obviously a key. It's very weird, defense, but like I literally said, list out the defense and say, oh, they're all undroppable and fantastic. And there's even still an argument to say that Angus is the best goalkeepers in the division. Maybe we just blame George Long for all the goals that we conceded when he was in goal. I'm happy to do that. Yeah, I think it's just kind of it's the way we're going to play. We're going to be a bit gung ho. We're going to be a bit all over the place. But I'd happily win 4-2 than 1-0. Sorry, Dean.
No, he's going to be very upset. I mean, your lover. No, he'll be upset to hear that you'd rather score goals and win rather than just keep it simple and be very good defensively. But no, it's even just thinking back on Norwich's wins this season. Well, there was the 1-0 at Coventry, which was was a very determined performance. But all of the other wins for us this season they haven't really been sort of ground out, hard fought. There's been a lot of just sort of where either we literally blow away our opponents. You look at the Hull City game, won that 4-0. Watford won that 4-2. Luton, yes, that was tight, but we still won by a 2-goal margin. Plymouth absolutely destroyed them. Just honestly, I mean, of course, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't get to catch the game. I can only go off scorelines and statistics and match highlights. But if I can only watch 7 minutes of highlights of a nearly 100-minute match and still come to the conclusion that Norwich could have won the game 10-1, then that says a lot. And that ultimately says that we were just far too good. And really, although, of course, well, Henry, you mentioned earlier about Plymouth, and maybe they that you'll be surprised if they go down. Maybe the result was more of an inevitability. As Plymouth's away form, we thought ours was bad. Theirs is atrocious. I think it's 3 wins in 33 championship away matches since they were promoted. So, albeit, yes, it was still brilliant. You can't deny that. It was a brilliant performance, and it could have been even worse for Plymouth. But I'm not really doing it to say that we should be beating Plymouth 6-1 at home. Their away record's so bad. Or if we didn't win, then people should be looking at themselves and whatnot. But when there's away form like that, I mean, you go back to it 6-1. Yes, it is class, but when you look at that, you can sort of weigh it up maybe and think, well, if Norwich hadn't won that game convincingly, could a few questions have been asked? That's probably quite a big point, and maybe that isn't the case whatsoever. But just looking at that, and even Luton, you could maybe argue, who have really been struggling, and there's been major calls for their manager, Rob Edwards, to be sacked, and he hasn't yet. Maybe looking at those games at home when Norwich have lost once in about nearly 400 days, or maybe 400 days and a bit more, that you look at them and could there have maybe been a case of Norwich should have won both those games, even with still a few players missing? Or can we not take away any credit, which again would be perfectly fair, maybe whichever sort of side of that fence you sit on?
No, I disagree with that. I think when you look at Plymouth, I don't actually think that anyone should be winning a championship fixture 6-1 in terms of how competitive leagues are. I know you've got teams like Norwich who, have spent probably the best part of 5 or 6 years out of the last 10 years in the Premier League. And you've got Plymouth who have fluctuated between League 2, League 1 and the Championship. We're now in the same league. They should be a lot closer in terms of standards. So to lose 6-1, no one should do that in the Championship, in my opinion. So even had we won the game 2-3-1, I don't think many Norwich fans would have cared. I think it was about getting that 3 points, and that's exactly what we did. For us, it was a bonus that we really did put them to the sword, I guess. So I'm definitely pleased by that, but the scoreline I don't think really matters as long as we won. And it's the same with Luton. I was reading something earlier that Connor Southwell put up, and he said we've been on a really barren run against teams who've just been relegated from the Premier League. I can't remember what the stat was, but it's something like the last 11 games, I think, we've played against relegated sides from the Premier League. We've not won other than that game against Luton. So, again, the score didn't matter. And if you look at the balance of the game, did Norwich deserve to beat Luton? Yes. Were Norwich the better side? Yes. But it was still quite a cagey game. 5 minutes after half time, where we've taken in a 2-1 lead, they equalise. And it takes another, over half an hour for Norwich to then get that second goal through Emiliano Marcondes. So again, the 2-goal scoreline probably didn't reflect how cagey that game was, but in that situation, all that mattered was the victory. And obviously, 2 games, 2 wins, we go marching up the table. And that's all Norwich City fans can ask for, I think.
Yeah, I think you should never be complacent in the Championship. I think as us team should very much know that. I think, did we lose to Burton when they were in the Championship? I think we did.
Yes.
I think it would be arrogant of us to walk into these games and think we're a shoo-in. Obviously, we came up against two teams that have abysmal away form at a stadium where our home form is pretty decent. Obviously, let's just scratch the Bristol City result from the records. If we can just forget that one existed, then we would be on a winning run at home, and everyone would be really scared. So I'd officially like to forget that game. It was when Luton took the lead and their fans were chanting, "How must you be? We're winning away." The moment they started singing that was the moment that I knew that we would still win. Because just you don't chant that 20 minutes in. Come on. If it was the 80th minute, I'd get it. But if anyone appreciates kind of bittersweet irony, it's me. Obviously, at the moment where we're being fantastic and we're scoring lots of goals, and lots of people are kind of quoting me in kind of hot takes where people have been negative about our current players who are now really good. And I'm like, well, that's not images that precede unfortunate events. These are really fortunate events. Those do not count. At no point will I ever critique people for having negative on players who are, now all of a sudden really good. But yeah, let's just kind of look forward to the next match. We're all at home. Oh wait, no, the next two are away. It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Well, those next two matches, they are against two of the Championship's bottom three. It's away at QPR on Saturday, a sold-out away end, which is fantastic. That's great. And then Norwich head to Portsmouth. I'll be in Portsmouth at Fratton Park. That'll be good fun. I can actually go to a game for the second time this season, so I very much look forward to it. But no, even though they are away, Norwich have proven against teams lower than them in this division, they're capable of beating them, and they can score a lot of goals past them. Now, it's not to say that we will absolutely cruise to victories against Queen's Park Rangers and Portsmouth. They can be good on their day. Any team in this division can. Any team in any league position can beat anyone. Just look at Blackburn beating Leeds at the weekend, or look at maybe nearly any other Championship game in the history of its division. Anyone can beat anyone. That's why football is such a great sport. It's so unpredictable. But no, it's going to be big for Norwich because they're only 5 points off the playoffs, and they've got a bit of ground to make up still in the Championship, and they can definitely have a very good chance of climbing up the division if they do win both games. It's just what did this team need to change? Or if anything, do this team need to change anything right now to bridge the gap between themselves and that top six places? Of course, winning 2 games back to back is the perfect and ideal scenario where everyone can be happy. But is there anything that the pair of you might sort of critique with this team, and you feel that maybe there should just be some minor changes, if you feel they're needed, of course, that maybe gives them the best chance possible of winning back-to-back games?
I think at the minute, like Jack was saying, just scratch that Bristol City result from existence, and again, we're still on a really good run of form. So now that we've got players back, you'd back us against almost any side in this division. But what also, to follow up on what Jack was saying, he's spot on where we cannot get complacent. Yes, we've got the bottom 2 next, but they're both away from home and they're both very tough grounds. We all know how tough a away day at Loftus Road can be. So the result's certainly not a given then. And then we move on to a game that I'm going to lovingly call the Delia Smith Derby, because she'll know just how strong that Fratton Park atmosphere is, as she famously wanted our fans to be more like Portsmouth fans, of course. But yeah, again, they're not going well in the league, but they did well to get themselves out of League One, and it will be a test. And Norwich need to provide the answers to get past that. And the threats that QPR and that Portsmouth will have are different to the threats that Luton and the other teams we've faced have recently will have. So yeah, it's just about game management really. But in terms of what we can do differently, I think we're doing everything right at the minute, and you don't change a winning formula. So I think we should definitely stick to what we're doing and get the basics right, and then hopefully we should get the results. But it's just about not getting ahead of ourselves and not getting complacent, because if we do slip into that complacency mode, then it wouldn't surprise me if we lose those games.
If you go and Fratton, make sure to bring a few light bulbs, and maybe a screwdriver or something. Also, who wants to on Josh Murphy scoring the winner? I'm not a gambling man, and I don't condone gambling, but I don't know. That's a dead cert in it. What do we change? Again, I said before, I think we need to redefine how we approach set pieces, corners especially. We just seem quite kind of clueless and quite nervous to succeed. A corner, that's not a very good trait to have, especially against championship teams that will invest a lot of their time and energy pieces. Nunez coming back from fitness creates a very interesting dilemma in terms of the midfield. Can't drop Kenny because he's Kenny. You can't drop Marcondes because he's just electric at the moment. It's then a question of like, oh, well, Slimani has done all right in these two matches and hasn't really kind of had the right opportunity, but he has been having his injury problems. So, yeah, it would probably be a midfield three of McLean, Marcondes, and then it's just a case of kind of how that dynamic works. I would also maybe just like after Borja scored his usual hat trick, take him off in the 75th minute and wrap him in bubble wrap and give him a face mask and a dressing gown and do his nails and read him a bedtime story. Just keep him as pristine as we can, because if I see a tweet that says Borja is out for 2 months, have to play Fastnacht on the left. I think I'm going to go find the tallest cliff in Norfolk. I don't know which one that is. It's probably Hunstanton, probably. Come on, Norfolk boys, you should know your geography. It's either Hunstanton or where else? Is Yarmouth? No, Yarmouth hasn't got any.
No,
Sheringham's got cliffs.
Yeah, Winterton is famous for their sand dunes. I know there's not cliffs, but they're midget cliffs, aren't they? So
that's one way of putting it. That's one way of putting it. The beast and bump could jump off of that. That might be good fun. Midget cliffs. Oh God. Oh, it's a real shame our title's already decided and scrolling along the bottom.
The nonsense has started early.
Oh my God.
Oh, big up Winterton-on-Sea.
Yeah. Oh my.
Oh no, what was I saying?
A staple for geography courses everywhere.
Yeah. Most.
Oh, Freddie, is there anything else on the agenda, please?
No.
What I will say quickly, though, sort of similar to that point, is one thing we definitely don't do is start Onel Hernandez. I cannot believe we're heading into 2025 and still having this argument. So I've got up his stats, right?
Oh no.
The 2018-19 season was his most prolific for Norwich. He played 30-odd games, and I think he got something like 8 goals. So actually quite a good turnaround. But ever since then, so from 2019 onwards, he scored 3 goals for Norwich, 2 of them against Birmingham, the last-minute winner under Dean Smith, and against Manchester United in the Premier League, were off the bench. So in 5 years, he's got 1 goal from being in the starting lineup, and that was against Coventry away, right? So his output starting is not good enough. 1 goal in 5 years is abysmal, right? Where Onel Hernandez is best is when teams do battle, like QPR, who want to make it intimidating and are going to use their physicality to try and bully us, right? They're then going to try and make us compact. So to bring on Onel Hernandez in the 75th minute, say, fresh-legged, to make Norwich more expansive is a no-brainer. That is what he's brilliant at. So not only in terms of starting him do you not get that output, you also lose what he's good at and have a real genuine threat come off the bench. So for me, no matter what way you spin it, it's still absolutely ridiculous that, 5 years after he properly sort of last had a run of championship games where he was actually producing, we're still having this debate. I cannot wrap my head around it.
No, I think he should start up front because Crnac is rubbish.
What I actually think, I think Grant Hanley should start. I think Grant Hanley should start for Borja Sainz. Drop Sainz, don't even put him on the bench, and start Hanley, and then swap Hanley and Crnac, right? We've seen how fast Hanley can run when he swings his arms. That's what we should do, because that is the equivalent of starting Onel Hernandez. It is that ridiculous for me. It is that ridiculous. Have him on the bench, that's fine. Have him on the bench, bring him on. But under no circumstances should we be starting Onel Hernandez. It's insane.
Oh my God, Henry's gone mad.
Henry, you should be on the
power. Henry's gone mad. It's too many peach jubals.
I've been broken, mate.
Yeah. No, he's gone a bit mental. No. Well, I hope that wasn't one of your hot takes, Jack. If Grant Hanley should start up front, because it's time to move on to them. Our 5 quick fire hot takes. If you're a new viewer or listener, this is where Jack asked us 5 questions, and he asked us quick questions. We have to give our answers. They're usually topics which can be quite controversial, like should Grant Hanley start up front? Is Onel's 3 goals in 5 years not good enough? Don't forget the 2 he scored against Stevenage. He started that game technically as a striker, and he scored twice. So
against Stevenage in the cup, yeah.
Hey, you know my thoughts on Stevenage. You know my thoughts. As Jack is already shushing us all, so I'll let him take centre stage, and I'll let him do the talking for now.
Yes. The first one is actually related to something we were talking about earlier, but we didn't quite touch on it. Amount of money would satisfy you enough to part with Borja Sainz in January?
£40 million.
What on earth? That is ridiculous.
I'd go 35.
Thank you.
I think anything less than that, in terms of his output, and what other championship teams sell their best players for, anything less than that, I don't think he should go. He is that good at the minute.
Yeah, thank you. Spot on.
I think 30. I think we wouldn't be able to get £1 more than 30 mil, but maybe that's cynical. Probably. Question number 2. If we can make one January signing, which position is most important?
Has to be striker. Has to be. We just haven't got the depth.
Crnac?
No, yeah, but then it's Crnac. Yeah, but come on. Barnes. Come on, mate.
Hernandez.
I would actually go for another winger, because I think if you're playing a 3 in midfield and it's Kenny, Nunes or Slimani, either one, and then Marcondes, all three of those are really good. And you could get away with pushing Marcondes up. But if you want him further back to sort of play how he has been playing, then that 3 behind the striker, Borja Sainz, or the 3 up front, Borja Sainz's position is nailed on. I think ANTE Crnac's position is nailed on. And if he's not in the team, then it will be Josh Sargent when he's back from injury. It's that other winger that there have been question marks about. Obviously, Amankwa Forson has played there in the previous games and hasn't exactly set the world alight. I don't think he's been that bad, but he hasn't really set the world alight, I don't think. So if we could get another winger to maybe complement Borja Sainz in that regard, I think that's where we're lacking the most at the minute.
The correct answer is right wing. Because when Sargent comes back from his injury, he's going to start and Crnac is going to be the number 2. Crnac is not going to play on the wing ever again. And if he does, I think it would be Moronic. The other right wing options are Cade Gordon or Christian Fasnacht. Wasn't there a link to some Danish kid who plays for Benfica,
Yes.
Schilderup or someone?
Andreas Schilderup. He's more a left winger though, and I don't think
we can convert him. It's fine.
I don't think we ever have a chance of signing him. That is so unrealistic.
I think so too. But dreaming is what this game is all about. Question number 3: Who is one-dimensional player at the club?
Okay. I wonder who Henry's going to say.
Yeah. In terms of predictability, I hate to say it, but yeah, it probably is Ono Hernandez, just because he's just going to run at the defence and just cut inside and then do a Wes Hoolahan turn and then lose the ball. So,
are we now calling it a Wes Hoolahan turn and not a Cruyff turn? Are we now?
No, but Wes Hoolahan would do it in succession and do it when no one was around him. He'd do it just to show off. He'd literally get the ball and he's like, "Look, I'm good. I know that I'm good. I'll just treat you to half a dozen turns, just for no reason."
Okay,
Freddie. This is a very difficult question because realistically, the only player I can think of is Onel, because he does do the same thing pretty much over and over again, albeit it's had very good success at times. Yeah, I don't actually think I can say another player. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to be boring and just shadow Henry's words because he's absolutely spot on.
There's obviously one answer, and that's Angus Gunn. All he does is save things. He doesn't score goals. He doesn't clear crosses away. He doesn't dribble. He doesn't do skills. All he does is just wears gloves and goes, "Ooh," one-dimensional. Would you rather Norwich to have won the FA Cup in 2020 after run against Tottenham and got relegated, or we stayed up that season and didn't win the cup?
Win the cup, because we would have played in Europe in the Championship.
I'm going to go for not win the cup and stay up, purely because of the season it happened in. I could not have taken Norwich City getting to Wembley and then us playing at Wembley behind closed doors. That would have been the most heartbreaking thing ever. So because of the pandemic and that project restart, I'd have to go for the latter option.
That's actually an astute observation that I didn't even think about. I would have gone with staying up, because we probably would have kept Emmy. We probably for longer. we probably would have built on that team, bought someone who wasn't just Sam Byram for £750,000. And Parker would have had some better backing and would have been able to prove his minerals in the top flight. Birmingham, was it Birmingham? No, it was. Did Birmingham win the League Cup and then get relegated?
No, Wigan won the FA
they
Cup.
did. Yeah,
they did. Oh, of course they did. Yeah.
Yeah. Both Birmingham and Wigan did it. So Birmingham did it with the League Cup, and then, as you said, Wigan did it with the FA Cup.
Did Pompey do it as well?
No. So Portsmouth were in the FA Cup final the season they got relegated, but they lost to Chelsea in the final.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. European games in the Championship, I distinctly remember watching Grant Holt in the Europa League for Wigan. Was the weirdest crossover that I never thought I'd see in my entire life. But yeah, European football in the Championship isn't all that, because you have to force, going to Vicarage Road with going to Maribor. So, doesn't exactly work out. Final question. Which current Norwich player would you most like to be by your side during a zombie apocalypse?
I'll go Grant Hanley, because I reckon he would just absolutely batter all of them. So I'll go Grant Hanley.
Yeah, Grant Hanley, 100%.
Oh, I'd go with Big Bad Barnsley, because we're going to die, but at least we'd have a good time. We'd be there, he'd be regaling stories of Sean Dyche, and, they'd be peeling it through the door, and we'd be like, oh, do you remember that penalty you scored at Anfield? Oh, what great times. Maybe bring Pete Dye, the kit man, as well. I'm sure he'd love it. I mean, that'd be a fine way to die in a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, no, it'd be a very nice way. But no, with Grant Hanley by his side, death wouldn't even be an option for Big Grant. That's the thing. He wouldn't even bother wearing protective clothing or anything. I distinctly remember, it was last Christmas actually, when I went back home for a little bit. I remember I was walking in the city centre, and I'd seen Dimitris Giannoulis in a massive puffer coat going down to about his knees, Arsene Wenger, bright white coat, I'll never forget it. And then I saw Grant Hanley walking out of Chapel Field, and he had a T-shirt and shorts on. And he just amazing.
It's just classic Hanley, isn't it?
Yeah, my gaffer. No, my captain, not my gaffer, not yet.
No, it was just excellent. And yeah, we hope that you thought that this podcast episode was excellent, because that's all your lot. From me, Henry and Jack. No Will, but didn't seem to be a problem. We've nearly yapped away for an hour, and we hope you've all enjoyed either watching it or listening to it on either the My Football Writer YouTube channel or on our Spotify account. This has been the 24th installment of the MFW podcast. It's goodbye for now, and we'll either see you on Spotify for the next podcast episode, or see you on YouTube for the next video of ours on the channel.